the hidden history and adventures you can find in Temecula. Most people know it for its rolling vineyards and the old-fashioned charm of Old Town, but there's so much more beneath the surface. Hidden within these hills and valleys is a story that stretches back thousands of years, shaped by ancient cultures, frontier settlers, and transformations that few could have predicted. How did this rugged land go from an ancient ocean floor to a cherished California wine country gem? Welcome to Voyager. I'm Armando, and today we're diving into the untold story of Temecula. We'll trace its roots back to the Pechanga people who first thrived off this land through the dramatic arrival of the Spanish missionaries, the changes brought by Mexican independence, railroads, ranches, and cowboys, all the way to its rise as a wine country destination. Whether you've walked through the vineyards or just want to learn more about Temecula, stick around, because by the end, you'll see this place in a whole new light, and we'll leave you with some great places you can visit there today. Let's get into it. Imagine Southern California millions of years ago, a time when what we call Temecula was entirely submerged beneath an ancient sea. Layers of marine sediment gathered over time, forming the bedrock of Temecula Valley. Tectonic forces along the Elsinore Fault Zone, a major fault line running near the valley, played a huge role transforming the area over millions of years. Each shift in the Earth's crust forced hills to rise and valleys to dip, shaping this rugged landscape, creating the contours that we see today. Over millennia, rivers carved through the ancient rock formations, and as Earth continued to shape the land, global climate stabilized the region's environment. Temecula's microclimate emerged, with warm days and cool coastal breezes drifting through Rainbow Gap and Temecula Gorge. These forces set the stage for wildlife and early human life to thrive here long before grapes would ever touch the soil. For thousands of years before Spanish settlers ever set foot here, the Temecula Valley was already a thriving, interconnected world. This was the land of the Pechanga band of Luiseno Indians, who lived here for thousands of years alongside neighboring groups like the Cahuilla. This valley was a connected part of their culture and identity. At the center of Pechanga's culture stands a remarkable symbol of resilience: Huiasal, the great oak tree. This 1,000-year-old tree was a sacred gathering place. Beneath its branches, acorns were collected, stored in granaries, and carefully managed through sustainable practices like controlled burns, which ensured the land's continued abundance. Even the name Temecula tells a story, derived from the Luiseno word Temecunga, meaning the place where the sun breaks through the mist. This vision is what inspired a name, and according to legend, an area known as Exva Temicu was where natural forces like the sun and mist converged, connecting the physical and spiritual worlds. There's also Puesca Mountain, known to the Pechanga people as where the rocks cry. According to tradition, it's the place where Wuyut, the tribe's first leader, left his spirit within the landscape. Today, Puesca Mountain lies within the Santa Margarita Ecological Reserve, a place you can visit today, which also preserves the Santa Margarita River, one of Southern California's last free-flowing rivers and a critical habitat for wildlife. In partnership with conservation groups, the Pechanga people have become guardians of these lands, preserving their cultural and natural heritage. If you're enjoying the video or learned something new so far, please give the video a thumbs up. It really helps the channel. Now back to Temecula. 1797 was the year Spanish explorers first set foot in the hills and valleys of what we now call Temecula. They heard rumors about this land and scouted the area. In 1798, they founded the San Luis Rey Mission near what's now Oceanside in San Diego. It quickly became one of the most influential missions in all of Southern California, reaching deep into Temecula Valley. Spanish missionaries introduced new farming practices, bringing vineyards, orchards and livestock to the valley. Surprisingly, those early vineyards weren't the start of wine country as we know it today, but they marked the beginning of a transformation that would fundamentally alter life in the valley. The arrival of Spanish missionaries brought drastic change to the native people's way of life. Their goal was to convert the local population to Christianity, forcing Luiseno people into new religious practices, agricultural labor, and strict control under the San Luis Rey mission. This is where the Spanish began calling them San Luiseños, later shortened to Luiseños. Life at the mission was bleak. Crowded conditions and exposure to diseases like smallpox and measles led to sharp population declines. Missionaries also disrupted traditional social structures by separating families and enforcing a hierarchy that undermined Luiseno leadership and culture. Some resisted or fled, but many had little choice. By the time Mexico secularized the missions, the Luiseno population and culture had been severely impacted. In 1821, Mexico gained independence from Spain, and the power shift brought sweeping changes as the former mission lands were broken up and granted to new landowners. Rancho Temecula was one of the final land grants given to Felix Valdez in 1844. Here, the ranching took on a new scale, with cattle operations spreading across the valley, but Valdez wasn't the only influential figure of the time. Pablo Apis, a respected Luiseno leader, emerged as a key figure. In 1845, he was granted Rancho Little Temecula by Governor Pio Pico. His home became a gathering place where the Luiseno found safety in a time of increased settler pressures. His adobe home was also the site of the 1852 Treaty of Temecula, a treaty that promised much but delivered little, leaving the Luiseños with more hardship than security, as much of the land he fought for was eventually lost. By the mid-1800s, a new influence made its way to Temecula. The Butterfield Overland Mail Route was a key stagecoach line connecting St. Louis to the West Coast. Suddenly, Temecula was on a major artery of the westward expansion, bringing in travelers and goods, as well as rising tensions. With the influx of settlers, conflict grew between U.S. forces and the indigenous communities. In 1846, tensions that had been simmering for years erupted into violence in what's now remembered as the Temecula Massacre. It began with the tragic event known as the Palma Massacre, where 11 California Lancers were captured by Luiseno warriors in retaliation for a horse theft. This act sent shockwaves through the region, and soon a combined force of California militia and Cahuilla allies, led by Jose del Carmen Lugo and Cahuilla chief Juan Antonio, set out for retribution. Their approach was calculated and ruthless. The Californios and Cahuilla forces set a trap, drawing the Luiseno warriors out of hiding and into an ambush near present-day Temecula. What followed was brutal. Historic records vary, but it's believed that up to 125 Luiseno people were lost in the ensuing massacre. And in the grim aftermath, Lugo handed over captured Luiseños to Chief Juan Antonio, who ended their lives, determined to assert control over the territory. In the wake of the massacre, members of the Mormon Battalion arrived in the area, aiding the surviving Luiseno people as they buried their dead in a common grave near the village. For the Luiseno, it was a tremendous loss of life and a stark reminder of the harsh new reality encroaching on their land and in their lives. And for the people who survived, resilience was necessary as a means of holding on to their identity in a world shifting around them. The memory of that day remains etched in the collective consciousness of the community and reminds us today of both their vulnerability and resilience. The Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo in 1848 officially handed California to the United States, and with it came waves of American settlers seeking new land and opportunity. As they moved in, Mexican ranchos and indigenous lands were increasingly occupied, blending Mexican ranching traditions with new American influences. One tradition that took root was the vaquero culture, brought by Mexican settlers. These early cowboys were the foundation of California's iconic cowboy identity. Riding across the wide open lands of Temecula, these vaqueros managed vast herds with skills handed down from Spain and Mexico, leaving a legacy that shaped the culture, economy, and a spirit that lives today in the region. Ever wondered how Old Town Temecula transformed from a dusty frontier stop into the lively cultural attraction it is today? Let's dive into the origins and meet the people who built this place from the ground up. It all began with pioneering families like the Maggies, who set up a store on Rancho Little Temecula in the mid-1800s. It became a key stop along the Southern Emigrant Trail, where weary settlers and travelers could rest and trade. The Maggies helped anchor a growing community from wilderness to a bustling outpost. The gold rush of 1849 might have drawn attention to Northern California, but its effects reached all the way down here. Temecula found itself right in the middle of a new wave of prospectors and ranchers. Things took a big turn when the California Southern Railroad rolled into town in 1882, linking Temecula to the rest of Southern California. But just as quickly as the rails brought prosperity, Temecula Canyon's infamous floods kept washing out the tracks. By 1891, service to San Diego was completely cut off. You can only imagine the frustration and the resilience of the locals, who rebuilt and pressed forward with every flood. And today you can see the channels that were eventually built to replace the flood banks. Then came Simon Levy. He opened a general mercantile store in 1873 that quickly became the town's heartbeat. Settlers, ranchers, and travelers all gathered there to trade goods and catch up on news. As the postmaster, Levy kept Temecula connected to the outside world. His efforts helped establish Temecula's reputation as a key trading post. Around that time, another influential figure, Juan Murrieta, arrived in Temecula. Murrieta bought Rancho Little Temecula in 1873 and transformed it into a massive sheep ranch, bringing a major economic boost to the region. But Murrieta's success came with a darker chapter. His sheep encroached on native farmlands, escalating tensions and ultimately leading to the forced removal of the Luiseno people in 1875. As Temecula grew, so did its rowdy reputation. By the late 1800s, Old Town was known for its saloons, where railroad workers, ranchers, and travelers gathered to blow off steam. When Prohibition hit in the 1920s, the bars didn't go away, they just went underground. Secret speakeasies like the Blind Pig kept people entertained, and if you look closely today, some Old Town buildings still have bullet holes in the rafters, a true reminder of Temecula's Wild West days. Today, Old Town's facades may look polished, but there's much more beneath the surface. If you're ever wandering through Old Town, look closer and you might see the hints of the rowdy past. Fast forward to the 1990s, and Old Town was due for a modern makeover. The city poured effort into restoring the area's historic center, blending Western-style facades with new developments. A major flood in Murrieta Creek in 1993 wiped out some buildings, but also inspired a renewal effort that revived the area's charm and spirit, with landmarks like the Temecula Community Theater and events like Western Days. So next time you're walking through the farmer's market or having a drink at a speakeasy, remember that Old Town Temecula is a testament to those early pioneers, the good and the bad, making Old Town a place where the past is all around you. Let's dive into one of Temecula's most iconic places, Vail Ranch, a cornerstone of the valley's history with stories of grit, change, and community. The area was rugged, isolated, and mostly traveled by foot or on a horse. Enter Louis Wolf, a German immigrant, and his Chumash wife, Ramona. Together, they settled by Temecula Creek and built what started as a modest adobe trading post, the Wolf Store. It quickly became a busy outpost where traders, travelers, and ranchers stopped for supplies, shared stories, or just grabbed a drink at the saloon. It was a post office, hotel, general store, and a stagecoach stop all in one. And for nearly 40 years, it was the heart of life in early Temecula. In 1905, after both Louis and Ramona passed away, a new person arrived to shape Temecula's future: Walter Vail. Vail was a cattle baron from Arizona who saw potential in the land, stretching his ranching empire over a vast 87,000 acres from Camp Pendleton to Vail Lake and even into Murrieta. Under his leadership, Vail Ranch became one of California's largest cattle operations, helping to drive the local economy and putting Temecula on the map as a ranching town. For decades, Vail Ranch stood as a symbol of Temecula's rugged character and cattle-driven economy. But as California grew and changed, so did the valley's landscape and ambitions. And by the late 1970s, Vail Ranch was sold off for future housing developments. Though the ranch's headquarters remained, time and neglect threatened to erase this part of Temecula's history. In the mid-1990s, a group of locals stepped up, forming the Vail Ranch Restoration Association. They couldn't let the ranch, which is a vital part of Temecula's identity, fade away. So they took on the work of preserving what was left of the ranch. It was a huge task, but they managed to restore the historic buildings, breathe life back into the site, and turn it into what is now known as the Vail headquarters. Today, it's a historic landmark and a vibrant community hub with shops, restaurants, and events that bring locals and visitors together, all while honoring the valley's rich heritage. Next time you're in Temecula, stop by Vail headquarters. These restored buildings are a living piece of history and a reminder of how the valley grew from a rough frontier to the thriving community that hasn't forgotten where it's come from. Let's go back to the 1960s, a time when the story of Temecula's wine country was just beginning to take root. The land was waiting for a spark, and that came from an unlikely pair, Vincenzo and Audrey Salurzo. In 1968, they planted some of the valley's first modern commercial vineyards, a move that felt more like a gamble than a guarantee. But little did they know, they were sowing the seeds of Temecula's transformation into one of California's most beloved wine regions. For years, Temecula remained under the radar, known only to a handful of pioneers who experimented with grape varieties and winemaking techniques. And by the late 20th century, rumors of Temecula's unique wines began spreading beyond the valley, catching the attention of wine lovers and vintners alike. Then came 1984, a turning point. Temecula Valley earned its official designation as an American viticultural area, putting this hidden gem on the map in a big way. With AVA status came a surge of new wineries, from small family operations to larger names like Callaway Vineyard and Winery, all eager to stake their claim on this new wine country. And with wine came celebration, including the Temecula Valley Balloon and Wine Festival, also launched in 1984. This festival became a signature event, drawing thousands of visitors every year. Big names from local acts to legends like the Beach Boys took to the stage and made Temecula a must-visit spot in Southern California. Today, Temecula's wine country is a thriving community built on dreams, vision, and hard work. From the first vineyards planted by the Salurzos to the industry that's now world-renowned, Temecula Valley is a testament to what happens when the right vision finds the right place. Temecula's story didn't stop at the vineyards and festivals. In 1989, it officially became a city. Year-round, the city's calendar is packed with cultural events, music festivals, and farmers markets that bring the community together. In 2002, a new cornerstone of entertainment arrived, the Pechanga Resort and Casino. With its gaming, live performances, fine dining, and cultural celebrations, it quickly became one of Southern California's largest resorts and an economic engine for the entire region. This business is a legacy and a proud symbol of resilience and a commitment to sharing and celebrating their culture with all of those who visit. In many ways, it transformed Temecula, opening doors to tourism while deeply honoring the area's cultural roots. As it continues to thrive, the city stands as a testament to what happens when a place embraces its heritage while moving boldly into the future. Whether you're here for the wine tasting tours, a hot air balloon ride, or to experience the energy of a festival, Temecula promises a journey that is as rich as its history and just as exciting as its future. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more content about Southern California and beyond. I appreciate you taking the time to spend here and encourage you to explore the world, whether it's in your city or somewhere completely new. Life is about the journey. To continue exploring, click right here, and I'll see you in the next video.